Hey there. Welcome to episode 12 of the Van Dyke Mortgage West Michigan Conference Sports Podcast, brought to you by the Durga Insurance Group. I'm Scott DeCamp, co-host of the show. I'm here with fellow co-host Ken Byard. What's up, Ken?
Good morning.
Have you recovered from that Fruitport Whitehall pick yet?
So we're going to start off out the gate.
We're going to go right in.
there.
We're going right in
So,
with it.
I mean...
Is that why you're wearing Whitehall colors today? Or
Yes. I mean, you got to read the room, right? You got to know who's in the room. Mario Flores is in the room across the table from me. I can't say Whitehall then.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's a big dude. Like, I'm into self-preservation.
I mean, I was a buffer between you guys, but I don't know if I would have stopped him.
Like I said, self-preservation. So, yes, I'm okay with me being wrong at that pick. I'm glad that they won. It's always good to see West Michigan Conference teams moving on.
Don't worry. I was, quote, off the mark badly on two of my games I picked last week. I did get Whitehall right. Did get Oak Ridge right. I don't think those were stretches by any means. Way off on the other two, but... You know, sometimes you're going to go with a homer pick, and it's okay.
I mean, you're human, right? You're human.
Maybe. I know that these guys here call me vampire because I never sleep. But, so, today, speaking of vampires, I don't know if Ryan has those tendencies too, but we're happy to welcome Ryan Patterson, who works for sales in BSN Sports. What is your title, technically?
My title is Sales Pro for BSN Sports. So
okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming on the podcast with us.
Thank you.
You obviously know the West Michigan area like the back of your hand.
I do. I do.
So, things going well overall, would you say?
Yeah, things are going great. I would say things have been better. It's more of a, I guess, domino effect with BSN Sports. You know, you start working with one school in the conference, and then leads at 2, then 3, and now I'm basically with 12 of the 14, so things are going really well.
Oh, it's awesome. And obviously Ken being with them now as well. So, and we'll get to that more of that a little bit later, but before we get too far into this, as usual, we want to thank our sponsors who go a long way to making this happen. So we'll start with Grieve Law, West Michigan Joint Divorce, Big Stone Therapies, Green Ridge Realty with Chris Dykeman and Sarah Reel, North Grove Brewers, Foundation Systems of Michigan and John Botten, Coldwell Banker with Dave Dusenberry. No more jokes about his physique. I'm running out of material here.
Yeah, I mean, he just is what he is.
He is.
Specimen.
We're just going to have to accept that. Scheid Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Special thank you to our title sponsors, Van Dyke Mortgage Lakeshore. Last week we had branch manager Mario Flores on there, as we alluded. Their commitment to finding you the right home loan is second to none. Their experienced licensed team is ready to work with you and ensure a smooth and timely loan process from application to closing. You can check them out at 460 West Western Avenue in Muskegon, or give them a call at 231-332-6500. And then also our other title sponsor, Durga Insurance Group. You can contact them at 1535 Far Road in Norton Shores, or call them Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 231-744-9106. So, time to get to know our guest a little bit. Ryan, tell us a little bit about family. We'll start out with that. Tell us about your family and what's going on there.
I'm married for 9 years now with my wife Amanda. We have 3 kids together, Jameson, Guinevere, and Sebastian. So they all play sports. They all keep us really busy in the fall, winter, and spring. So
those are some really cool, unique names.
Yeah, well, we just had parent-teacher conferences for my little one, and she's like, well, he struggles with spelling his name. I said, we should get maybe a little easier name than Sebastian.
like Ken?
Yeah, they need some nicknames.
He has a nickname. It's Bash, so I'm like,
there we go.
That's a cool nickname.
I like that
just
one.
Call him Bash.
I mean, he could have really basic nicknames like Ken or Scott.
That's true. Or Ryan.
Ryan. Yeah.
We're so dynamic.
All of us, yeah, I guess so. So, so where do you guys live and that kind of thing? Where are you guys at?
So I'm from Sparta. I'm a Sparta boy. I married a Hudsonville girl, and we ended up in Jenison. So that's where we've lived the last 8 years. So
nice. That's cool.
Played some college football, right?
A little bit. Dabbled in that.
Where at?
Olivet Nazarene, Illinois. So we weren't very good.
And what year did you graduate from Sparta?
2006.
Okay.
He's a pup.
He is. God dang, I feel so old now.
I was in my 10th year of teaching then.
Oh man. So a little bit more about the sports background. How active were you in sports? I'm sure obviously playing football, but were you kind of like a 3-sporter type guy growing up?
Yeah, growing up I was football, basketball, baseball, tennis. I picked up tennis in high school and was pretty good at it. But yeah, back then it was nothing else to do but sports. It was just season to season. There wasn't AAU. Yeah. It was just okay. Fall's football, winter's basketball, spring's baseball. Then it starts all over again. So,
and I got to ask too, just you being from Sparta. Not that I need to give them a shameless plug, but I love the place, downtown Trini's. How often you been there?
A lot. So Joe and Trini are my guys. So anytime I want to go up there and I need a place to sit, I just shoot them a text and they got a spot for me.
So we just drop your name if we want to head to Trini's. I love that place.
That place is phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
I covered the state finals at Kent City, the track state finals last spring. I'm like, I actually I made it right in my mind that it's okay to go over to Sparta. It's not that far away, and I don't care. I'm expensing. I'm getting a good meal there.
Absolutely.
After covering it, it's a long day covering a track.
It's your moral duty if you're that close. You have to go.
It was.
Right.
I justified it. But
right.
Man, that place is so good.
Yeah.
What's your go-to?
I usually get the wet burrito there. I love it.
In Fuego.
Same.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the one that's got everything in it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's what is it? It's I forget what it's called.
It's got like everything.
It's got like
right?
everything. It's huge. I don't know if people can finish it. But
I didn't get it.
Massive.
But when I was doing some more shameless self-promotion, saying that I was there, like tagging myself there, and some of my friends were like, "Oh, you need to order this and this and this," and they said that big burrito or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's like the Big Nasty or something.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's not nasty though, by the sounds of it. So. But no, thanks for coming on. We're going to kind of dive into this with some high school football talk like we usually do because that's what people around here enjoy, ourselves included. Obviously, I think consider ourselves all football nuts. But district finals, we're coming off those from Friday. As far as the West Michigan Conference goes, we had a game Saturday as well. But Whitehall beat Fruitport 51-26 in Division IV action. Rainy night at Whitehall. Division 5 action, another obviously rainy at Oak Ridge as well. They took care of Belding 30-8. And then up in the UP, Manistee played on a Friday night, which I thought was I wasn't expecting that. I thought they'd make it a Saturday game, but they took the trip and they took a day trip. They traveled and played that day, which I thought was
that's rough.
Yeah, that was a tough itinerary there. But they lost to Gladstone 36-14. It was a 14-14 game right before half, and then Gladstone scored, and then basically just pulled away from there. And then Saturday, Ithaca defeated Ravenna 63-27 in Division 7. Ravenna hung with them for a half, and then Ithaca just kind of pulled away from there and just kind of overpowered them at that point. But so I know, Ryan, you said that you were at the Whitehall game Friday. What'd you think? Just general thoughts on that.
I mean, it's my first time seeing them in person for Whitehall. Little backstory. I mean, I coach at Allendale, so I was able to watch film on them this year when they played Unity Christian the first game, and I was very impressed with their offense. And playing Fruitport in a regular season, the Jolman brothers and the Nash kid are special players, and so seeing them kind of contain them defensively, Whitehall defensively for Fruitport was pretty impressive. But they still got their big plays. They have those explosive plays, but offensively, I mean, Whitehall's just got so many weapons. It's like if you shut down Cook running the ball, well, then you got Stratton, or then you got Boley on the outside, and it's just the two big receivers they got on the outside. It's impressive how well they played.
So do you have any knowledge of South Christian other than we've heard that this is the matchup? We've been hearing it all year. Have you watched them on film yet with your coaching with Allendale?
We haven't watched film, but our preseason scrimmage, they were at the scrimmage with us in Zeeland East, and I mean they were going 5 wide the whole time, and all their receivers were 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and they just play fast, throw a lot of screens. I mean, they're just get the ball out in space kind of a team. So
right.
It'll be interesting to see.
How do they? I mean, a lot of changes from scrimmages to now, but how do they match up front with Whitehall?
I mean, they got some big guys, but they don't have the beef that I think Whitehall has compared to them. I mean, they have some taller guys, big line.
Just some like rangy guys, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yep,
big Dutch
exactly.
Athletic, rangy guys. Yes. So, yeah, I heard Jake DeHaan. I think that's his name.
Yep.
Is it DeHaan? The quarterback's a stud. 6'2", 180, something like that. And he's, I don't know if it was before last game or if it's updated, but he had combined for over 2,500 yards between passing and rushing. And but, yeah, like you said, got a lot of weapons, and they got a lot of trying to think of the kid's name. Man, there's a lineman number 55 that looks like a really nice looking player for them. Big kid, but they've got some athletes. Like talking to some Whitehall folks that had seen them, and they've like got film or scouted them, like maybe up to 9 of their games or something, and just athletes all over the place. But it'll be interesting because I think sometimes people sleep on Whitehall in terms of the number of athletes that they have in their own right. So.
Yeah, it'll be a great matchup. Like I said, it's the one that's been probably the most talked about, and in terms of as the season goes on, it's 1 versus 2, who's 1, who's 2, and so on turf, right down at East Kentwood.
Yep.
So it looks like it's a Friday night.
Friday, 7:00 Friday.
Yeah, it looks like the weather's supposed to be decent, so it's going to be a fast track. I'm anticipating lots of points being scored. I'm gonna head down there Friday.
Yeah, Whitehall's been itching to get back on turf again. I mean, they've been tough all season, regardless of where they're playing. But, they've got some speed as well and some athletes. So it'll be fascinating in terms of, what schemes are thrown out there and the game plans and stuff, and how they're going to attack each other. And see where it goes. And obviously, it always comes down to those mistakes and mental toughness and all those things, because you're going to face some adversity in a game like that. So. Yeah. Some people are saying it, arguably the state championship game here.
Yeah, I mean, we're down to Elite 8, right? Mm-hmm. So any one of those teams, I think, if you're in the Elite 8, you're pretty good. Yeah. So you got a chance to win the whole thing. So what'd you think of Boley Friday night, Nate Boley, which I did a feature on him earlier this year in the Profile of the Week, and his sophomore year, I don't know if you heard this story or whatever, he was at Montague, and that was when Montague had that loaded team that went unbeaten and won the state title. Well, that was a double overtime game. He was a sophomore at that point. It was like 4th and 7 from like his own 30 or something like that. And he back to punt. He catches a snap and just takes off. Zigzags and then down the sideline, gone, ties the game. And he's been known to do those kinds of things, those wild things. And I asked him, what is that? He goes, that's my Boley bag. I go, what? He goes, that's my Boley bag of tricks. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I feel like if we need a big play, I'm just going to try to make a play. Because I remember after that game talking to Tony Sigmund, I go, yeah, that was pretty gutsy for you guys to run that fake punt. He goes, that wasn't a fake. That was Nate taking off. I go, oh, well. It's the Boley bag.
And you said, Nate a little bit then?
It's funny how when you start working in my job, we were in the schools a lot, and you get to know some of the kids and football and stuff like that. When I used to coach at Hudsonville, and we always used to have a big 7-on-7 tournament, and Whitehall would always come down, so Sig and the boys would come down. You start to get to know some of the guys. But, Friday night I was impressed. It was early in the game, and he took a stretch play towards their sideline and looked like he had nowhere to go, and then all of a sudden he pops it to down to the 5-yard line. I'm like, man, this kid's making plays. And then I don't know if it was Fruitport returned the kickoff first.
It was Fruitport.
Cody Nash took one back, and then the next kickoff, Boley takes it back, and you're just like, holy cow!
So I was standing in.
Yeah.
So what way does that field line? I'm trying to think, directionally. It's the end zone away from the scoreboard. I was standing behind that end zone filming at that point because there was 4 touchdowns in 49 seconds.
Jeez.
Yep.
It was nuts. And like you said, I think it was Colin Jolman scored for them first to kick it off, the quarterback, and then I think Whitehall had an 80-yard pass to Trannon Naylor on the very next play from scrimmage. Then Cody Nash returns the ensuing kickoff, 75 yards for Fruitport, and then Boley returns the ensuing kickoff on that, 82 yards. And it's just, wow, that was amazing. And he did one of those, I don't know if you call it a fake punt, but he tucked it and ran it and had a really nice gain during one of their scoring drives as well. At one point in the game, and he also had 3.5 tackles or whatever. He had a great game. Obviously, Stratton was a 4 of 15 or something like that, but it was a tough night conditions-wise, but he still threw some nice passes, I thought.
It makes me wonder why you would even kick to those guys. And I think about when we played Ravenna, we made it a point to not kick to Hunter Hogan, right?
Yeah.
Why are you kicking it to a state champion or a state qualifier in the 200?
Yeah.
And Cody Nash, why are you kicking it to him? Squib it.
That kid can fly too. Yeah, Cody Nash can fly.
Squib it and take your chances.
Yeah. Cody Nash. I saw him in track season last year. He's not only is he fast, but he may or may not look like it in a football uniform, but he's pretty well put together now too. You can tell he's hit the weight room quite a bit.
Well, you're talking about Nash and Boley and Ayler, all track guys, right? And in both established track programs. Fruitport is widely known as a boys track school, and so is Whitehall. And so those are state level speed kids. If it's me, I'm not kicking any of them.
Yeah.
We learned the hard way in week 3 against Fruitport. We kicked to both those guys, and they both took ones back.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Where was that game at?
We played at Hope College.
Oh, okay. That's cool. So you're on the fast track.
It was a shootout, 50-36. It was
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's kind of how Fruitport played, though, most of the year. I mean, they lost to Unity 60-46. I think that's when they first caught my attention of, maybe they got a little something here. And then, a few weeks later, whenever that was, when they beat West Catholic, that's what really caught my attention.
Yeah.
Because they kind of held them in check.
Yeah, I think that caught everybody's attention. Yeah. Right.
But Whitehall, I mean, they've got all the pieces. It's as long as they stay focused on the prize and don't succumb to the distractions that can come about, and especially in a big game like this, there's going to be a lot of hype around it. So, I mean, who do you guys like in that? I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead to this week and maybe predictions, but who do you like in that Whitehall South Christian game?
I mean, I'm going to go with the known and redeem myself, and I like Whitehall. It's hard to bet against them at this point. I don't know enough about South Christian to say that what they can or can't do other than what Ryan just told us. But I'm going to go with the home team.
I mean, it's a tough game. I don't know, because I mean, what you try to look at is, okay, they're playing in the OK conference against some elite competition, and so is Whitehall. You got the Oak Riches, it's pretty solid this year. But when South Christian beat Catholic Central and snapped their streak, I was like, okay, maybe these guys are for real.
Right.
So I think it's going to be a great game. You got 2 really good quarterbacks. I mean, I'm pulling for Whitehall because I love Sig and that team up there.
And they're a BSN school.
And they are a BSN school, so South Christian is a BSN school as well, but different rep. But I really hope they, I'd love to see them win and see Hastings beat Edwardsburg in that game below them, and
get a rematch from week 2.
Yep, exactly.
Because I was talking to someone, a parent of a Whitehall player, and we were just discussing the Whitehall South Christian matchup, and I said, well, if you're looking at it objectively, obviously, if you look at best opponent that either team has beaten, you got to go with Grand Rapids Catholic. I didn't watch that game personally, and I haven't even watched the film, but I've talked to people who have, and they thought Grand Rapids Catholic kind of outplayed them in some respects, but South Christian made some big plays, like a pick six and a kickoff return, that kind of thing. But still, South Christian's obviously a great team. And then the other thing is, what we talked about was playoff pedigree. South Christian's lost in the regional finals the last 2 years. How much does that play into this? And Whitehall hasn't been to a regional in a little bit, and they're looking for their first regional title. Does that matter? What do you guys think? Is that going to play a difference or not? I mean, obviously, probably a lot of the same kids, obviously, for South that were on the team that lost last year. But for Whitehall, they hadn't been to the regionals finals in a while, so maybe this is new to them. Does it matter?
Yeah, I don't think it matters, for a regional final. When you have to experience going to Ford Field and all that includes, maybe it's a different thing. But to me, it's a regional final. There isn't a lot of pomp and circumstance yet. It's just a game, and so you go play it. And at the end of the day, personally, if it's a public school versus a private school, I'm going public school. So go Vikes.
I mean, I've coached in regional final games, and so there is that pressure of we got to get back to when I coach at Hudsonville, it's like we got to get back to the Ford Field like they've been in the past. There's that pressure. It's been a while. For Whitehall, it's like we haven't been here, and I don't know if they've ever won a regional title.
No.
And so it's like, is that pressure of we could be the first, we can't let our town down, where South is like, hey, we've been here a lot, this is just another game. But I don't think it plays too much into it with these kids.
And I would argue too that even if you haven't won it before, haven't been to the state, there's got to be a team that does it the first time.
Right.
It's got to happen at some point. Right. If it's going to happen, if you're going to be that program that gets to that, there's got to be a first one.
Yeah, and why not them?
Right. They've got all the pieces, so we'll see. But what I also like about this is there should be no excuses about the field or anything. East Kentwood's got a beautiful setup. They got the turf. They got plenty of stands. Parking situation, I think, is pretty good. I mean, it's supposed to be, like you guys said earlier, a good night for football by the sounds of it. So
great spot to play that game.
So, and then again, they would get the winner. Whitehall, South Christian winner would face the winner, Hastings, Edwardsburg in the semifinals. So, that'll be, still a lot of football to play, but this is a huge one on Friday. So
absolutely.
So switching over to Oak Ridge, I'm not completely surprised. Maybe a little bit by the margin, but not completely. With them beating Belding 30-8. Do you guys have any initial thoughts on that?
I was a little surprised by the score. I thought Oak Ridge would win. I thought it would be a lot tighter than that, though. So I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I picked 30-20 or something like that. But, Oak Ridge is playing well right now.
Yeah,
so.
they are.
I think Oak Ridge was the better team. We scrimmaged Belding and Oak Ridge this year at Oak Ridge. And, I was impressed with Belding's physicality, but I thought the playmaking of what's the quarterback's name?
Danachek.
I thought he was going to be the difference. And, their defense is playing great the last few weeks. And so, Kerry Harger's been doing this for a while, and, he knows I get those boys ready for district title games. I coached against him when I was at Grant for a couple times in the playoffs. And so it's like, he always has those boys ready for the playoffs. It's like they get better and better each week. So
he does. Their lone loss was to Whitehall. Whitehall's got a special team. But other than that, Oak Ridge has been pretty impressive this year. I guess their closest game would have been, outside of the loss, of course, was the Muskegon Catholic game. I think it was like 20-14. But then Ludington was 30-18, I want to say. So Ludington hung with them for quite a while. But outside of that, they've been pretty impressive, and they just do what they do, And Trevor Jones has just been huge for them. Yeah. He's just had a spectacular season. He was a pretty good sized kid, pretty physical player. But yeah, I was impressed by what they did in the district final, and now they get to host again. They host Gladwin, the Flying G's.
Flying G's.
And we've talked about this before on the pod, but quite a bit about them, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know about quite a bit. I'm going to lean on what Brian Beebe told us a few weeks back, and he was at Clare last year as the AD there, and so he knows some of those Jack Pine Conference teams, and he was telling us that the Flying G's are legit. Like, it's a good group of kids that have come through the last few years. They've slowly built themselves up as a kind of a football school, but he said they're for real. So I'm going to bank on what Brian told us and think this is going to be a pretty good game.
Arguably their best team ever, maybe, at Gladwin?
Yeah, I don't know the history, but I have to believe it's got to be up there.
Didn't BB say that they throw the ball around a little bit, too?
Yep. And I just like the mascot, Flying G's.
Yeah.
If I had a nickname, that's what I'd be.
Yeah, so they took care of Kingsford, I think, pretty easily in the district final. So that was the thing I was wondering, that if Kingsford had won that, if Oak Ridge would have still gotten to play at home, or if they have to move it to a neutral site because of the distance between the two. But
is it 250 miles or something?
I think
like
that's the rule or something like that. But it would be kind of cool to see a UP team come down here and play in Muskegon area. I'm trying to remember the last time that happened.
They got to have those UP power signs.
Yeah, that's right. So
my wife will be happy about this segment.
Yeah.
UP power.
So outside of that, do you know anything about Gladwin or not?
I don't know much about Gladwin at all. So I hope Oak Ridge takes care of business.
I'm going to have to do more homework on Gladwin, but all things being equal, I give Oak Ridge a reasonable shot. Not that it's a given by any means, but I guess if you're Oak Ridge, if you're going for a regional title, you'd rather face Gladwin in this spot than GRCC in this spot.
Yes,
absolutely.
Every year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you'll take your chances with that. You'll try to get the W there, and then should you win that, then you'll likely get Grand Rapids Catholic in the semifinal.
Correct.
So.
Right.
And at that point, you're like just playing with house money almost.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to bet against Oak Ridge right now because they're playing so well. At the start of the year, I didn't think it would be an Oak Ridge team like we've seen in the past, but they like Ryan said, they just have gotten better week by week and consistent, and they just kind of fly under the radar, and all of a sudden they're playing for regional title. Typical Oak Ridge, Kerry Harger style.
Completely. So jumping to Division 6, Gladstone, as we said, defeated Manistee 36-14. Manistee was playing some pretty good ball at the end of the year. They beat Boyne City, which was undefeated. Traveled up there, got that W in the playoff opener. So then they got Gladstone in the second round and knew they were going to have to make the trip to the UP. As mentioned, I was a little surprised that they took the trip the day of. I thought they might go up there, stay overnight, just because it makes for a really long day.
Yeah.
And when you're on a bus, even if it's a charter bus, that's still a long trip and everything. But apparently they stopped at St. Ignace on the way. One of the Manistee coaches is from St. Ignace, and they did a walkthrough, hung out in St. Ignace for a little while, and then they made the drive west. I'm still bad at these directions.
Well, especially in the UP. It's
one or the other.
Right.
It's either east or west. Keep saying it, but they made the trip and across the Gladstone, and they were up 6-0 early, and then it was 8-6 Gladstone, and then 14-8 Manistee, then 14-all, and then the way that I was talking to Troy Byard Friday night after the game, he said that it's 14-14. Manistee had the ball, 4th and 7 on like the Gladstone 34, kind of no man's land. Do you punt? What do? They went for it, got sacked. Gladwin hits a couple big plays, drives down the field, and then scores like in the final 30 seconds of the half or whatever, and then gets a 2-point conversion. And then, at that point, Manistee's a heavy running team. They don't throw the ball a lot.
Right.
They like to keep it on the ground, and they had to try to open it up a little bit, and they got picked off a couple times, and then Gladstone just kind of pulled away from there. Yeah. But still great run by Manistee, and nothing to be ashamed of there. 7-4 in their first year in the West Michigan Conference, and then district final game. So
yeah, something to build on. It does make you wonder the whole driving up there the same day, and I mean, I'm sure halftime adjustments had more to do with that outcome than anything, but that is a long day.
It is.
And so you wonder if maybe they shouldn't have went up a day earlier. I thought for sure they would have.
I thought so too, and most teams that I've known have done that.
Right.
And like when Ravenna back in '94, when they played at the Uperdome against Iron Mountain, because I was already graduated then, but I was part of the entourage or whatever. I rode with them up there, and it was cool because we went. It was a Saturday game, but we drove up there Friday, stopped, I think in St. Ignace, had lunch or something, then cut up over to Marquette, stayed in a hotel, got up the next day, and Ravenna beat Iron Mountain, and then won their first state title the week later against Schoolcraft. But it was such a memorable trip too. I mean, the game itself was cool, playing in the Uperdome. Haven't seen those kids play in the Uperdome, but the best thing was the bus trip and all the other stuff around it, and that's usually the case, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
So many great stories. But so then, speaking of Ravenna, Division 7 district final. They had their hands full. Obviously, I think people knew that going in, playing a powerhouse like Ithaca. And they hung. I mean, I was surprised. Hunter Hogan, again, kind of put him on his back, and it was a back-and-forth thing. Ithaca might go up by 2 touchdowns, and then he'd bust a big play or make a play somehow. And it was 35-27 at halftime, and they just couldn't get any stops, though. So I'm like, what? They're going to have to get a couple breaks, maybe get a couple turnovers to have a real shot at this, and they just kind of ran out of gas, I thought. So were you surprised, or either of you guys surprised that Ravenna was able to at least hang in there for a while?
So I'll go back to Hunter. No. He's always going to give you a shot, right? He's that dynamic. Why they kicked to him,
I know.
I don't know.
I know.
But he returned one for touchdown. But his ability to make plays, is, like you said, he puts him on his back and take your chances. Did I think that they would eventually get wore down? Yes, and I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Hogan was a special kid, working with Ravenna, following them and keeping my eyes on them, make sure they do it, And but I have a guy that I coach with who's from Ithaca, was on the 69-0 team, so he's got a couple state titles, and he was at the game, and he was texting me. He was like, "Man, that 7, it's just special. If they just had 2 more guys like him, it'd be a different story." Just that's what he basically said, was just Ithaca just wore them down.
Yeah,
they couldn't. Anytime that Ravenna would get stopped by them, then Ithaca would just go down and score and just trying to make up possessions. It's just tough to do in a football game.
Yeah, and probably the lack of depth on Ravenna's side in terms of defensively. They can match up their number 1 receiver with their best corner and their number 2 receiver with their second best corner. But when you go 5 wide, who gets 3, 4,
right.
5?
Seriously.
Right? And so that's where the matchups start to kind of show themselves.
And kind of going back to the Whitehall South Christian game, that's what you're kind of looking at. What are those matchups going to be when South Christian has the ball?
Right.
But Whitehall does have some athletes back there too, so that helps. But it's always interesting because I think people around here know and respect Hunter Hogan just because he plays hard and because of the stuff. But people from other areas, when they see him, at least the few games this year, they're blown away because Terry Hesbrook, who was the coach at Ithaca that led them to those state titles, he's the AD still at Ithaca, and he was at the end of the handshake line. I don't know if you saw the photos that I took there or not, but he gave Hunter a hug and was talking to him for a while. All those guys are like, where are you going to college?
Right.
And Hunter's like, I don't know. I don't have any offers. No one's talking to me. And these guys are blown away. It's like, gosh, he can help somebody somewhere. So
yeah, I was just going to ask you that if you had any inside scoop on what he's planning to do. Because I'm assuming he could probably play soccer somewhere too, right? I mean, he's that good of an athlete.
I texted Jordan Hesbrook, who's the coach there now at Ithaca. And we texted back and forth a little bit Saturday after the game and then Sunday morning because I was sharing some of the coverage that I had of the game and stuff. And he's like, yeah, as soon as that game ended, Terry Hesbrook, his dad, I think that's his dad.
I think it's his uncle.
Is it his uncle?
Yeah.
I think that sounds right, yeah. So as soon as that game was over, I guess Terry Hesbrook called the Alma coach, says, you guys got to get on this kid now. So, and then, I mean, I got to imagine any of the MIAAs, especially like a Hope or Albion. I think I heard that Justin Eagle was, because there's a connection at Albion too. Eagle's wife, Sarah Schmidt, her dad was Fred Schmidt, the coach, long time, like Hall of Fame type coach at Albion. So there are some connections there. I think Justin was going to call them on behalf and try to set some stuff up. And Hunter's a different kid too. He's kind of an outdoorsy, kind of a throwback, old school kid. Is he cut out for college? I don't know, but I think just to get an opportunity and see what's out there, take some visits, I think that would be great for him.
Well, and not just, I mean, he's a 5-sport letter winner, right, in one season. So could he go play soccer? Could he run track somewhere? I mean, he holds the record in the 200 at Ravenna, beat Benny Clark's time last year. So, I mean, he's college fast. So I feel like there's plenty of opportunities for an athlete that's as special as he is.
And the thing with him is he's about 5'9", 170, 175. If he could put on even 15 pounds, something like that, I mean, he could be a freaking demon back, like as a free safety or something like that.
He's Brady Rose.
He is.
Right? I mean,
my dad said the same thing.
Right?
He goes, if you put him, Hunter Hogan, on the Mona Shores team, surround him with that talent, does he do the same thing Brady Rose did? That's the question. I mean, maybe that's a stretch, but maybe not. I don't know.
He's probably more athletic than Brady was, actually. I know he's faster for sure. Right?
Yeah, Brady just had that it factor. Too.
Right.
But, so yeah, it was, great watching Hunter and everything. But yeah, to your point, Ithaca just wore him down. And their quarterback, I think it was you or somebody else told me about Ithaca. They're kind of like a bigger, stronger version of what North Muskegon was this year.
Right.
Kind of similar type schemes and the way they do things. And I would say the difference between like a James Young at North Muskegon and this Bronson Bupp, their quarterback at Ithaca, is Bupp has shown to be more of a capable runner.
Right.
I'm not to say James can't or won't be by the time he's a senior, just like Bupp is now. But that was the difference I saw between those two quarterbacks.
Yeah, he's a stud. Yeah.
He's tough, but he passed for over 300 and 4 touchdowns and rushed for 4 touchdowns.
Unbelievable. Video game stats right there.
Right. Yeah. Seriously. That's a decent day.
So as far as Ithaca goes, I mean, and you've both of you guys followed and been around high school football a long time. I mean, have you seen that stadium, and what do you know about their tradition there too? Obviously the 69-0 run and the 5 state titles, but what else do you know?
I mean, I've coached with a couple guys that are from Ithaca, and it's just like what you do in Ithaca is you play football there. It's just the way it is, and the backing of the community, I guess, is just unbelievable. Like that's all funded basically by community members to redo all that stuff. And it's just, when you go down the highway and you see it and you're like, is this a college?
I know. It's crazy.
It's Division 7 high school football stadium. You're like, what? Can't be, but
it's truly amazing. Yeah. That stadium's awesome.
I mean, other than obviously losing last week, I was sad that we weren't going to be able to play at their stadium because I wanted to see it. But, it's envious. Like we're a Division 7 school, and we look around at that, and it's like, what the heck? That's like
it's incredible.
Maybe nicer than Alma's.
And the people were super nice to us and the media, but of course, when you're good and when you're winning, it's easy to be nice.
Yeah.
Maybe that helps, as opposed to maybe the visiting team coming in and putting one on them. But so I think Ravenna, losing Hunter next year, that'll be a tough one to replace, but they have some young kids, some promising kids on the team, and I heard there might be some better days ahead with the junior high kids coming up too. So we'll see. They haven't had a JV the last 2 years, though, so that you wonder what kind of repercussions that might have in the next couple of years.
I saw their middle school play North Muskegon. They had good numbers. And I think they had 35 on the sidelines on the team. So hopefully they bring that JV program back.
Yeah. So we will. I guess I didn't put you on the spot about Gladwin Oak Ridge. We already kind of talked about who we might think will win Whitehall South Christian, but Gladwin Oak Ridge, I don't know if you guys came out with your formal predictions or not.
I mean, Carey's my guy, so I'm going with Oak Ridge.
I'm all in on Oak Ridge. I want them. I mean, I love Carey. He's done stuff with us in the past at previous schools. working with them and coaching against them. I want them to get the W again.
Carey's a total class guy.
Yep.
He's one of the best guys that I've had the pleasure to work with. He's just a stand-up guy.
I mean, present company excluded, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Well, I didn't say he's the best.
Oh, okay, all right.
I said among the best.
All right. So it wasn't a capital the.
No.
It was like a small.
No,
yeah,
no,
that's fair.
no.
You got to know your place, Carey. You got to know your place.
See, now you're going to get him all riled up. He's got a big game to prepare for, and now you're getting in his head. So, great. Good job. So, I'm going to skip around a little bit just because I think it deserves a little mention. The cross-country state finals were this weekend. Were Saturday at Michigan International Speedway. And I'll set it up a little bit. I wasn't there, but reported on it from some phone calls Saturday night and stuff like that. And I guess they had winds at like 42 miles an hour. They were running in that. And then during the girls' race, the Division III girls' race, it just started downpouring like at the beginning of the race and just miserable. Despite that, the Hart boys won their first ever state title, first boys state title in school history. And the girls fell short in their pursuit of a sixth straight state title, but they finished fourth. But they had sophomore Jessica Jaswinski won the individual title, and she just dominated. So, Coach Terry Tatro called it said she could have pushed for the Division III record time had not been for the conditions. But I interviewed Jessica on the phone Saturday night, and it was almost, I don't want to go overboard and say sadistic, but she was like, "Oh, that was awesome running in that." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "That's cross country."
I don't even like going out to my car when it's raining.
She's like, "That's cross country." All the elements and everything. So,
well, remember that name. She's not going anywhere. When your mom is the, two-time Big Ten athlete of the year when she ran at Michigan, and dad was an All-American runner at, I think we went to Western maybe?
I think so. Yeah.
Something like that. So we did some work with them when I was at Shores. We hired them as our cross-country and some track coaches, so I know a little bit about them, and they've kind of been in the area. But their story is pretty amazing about their house in the tornado, and it collapsed on them in Durand, and they were literally like stuck in their home that had fallen on top of them. It's just a crazy story.
See, now you're getting the wheels turn. Brent's going to be mad because now that's a story I'm going to want to do like right now.
Oh,
I've never written that story, but thanks for throwing it out there.
Well, now you have something to do. You didn't tell me you were bored. But yeah, so remember that name. Like they're not going and then they have some younger kids too. I think. So
I've seen them kind of one race. Bobby Jaswinski, an eighth grader, just a stud. Like, I mean, Hart's not going to be suffering.
No,
and the girls' team was young. They only had 2 seniors this year on the girls' team, so they'll be right back in the mix again.
Yeah,
because they got Jaswinski obviously back 2 more years, and then they got another Allison Enns, who's a junior this year. So, and they got some other runners to complement them. But yeah, so and then the boys obviously trying to defend the title, and they lose a big group of seniors, like 7 seniors, I want to say. Their top 7 runners, I think, were seniors maybe. So they lose a lot, but they bring Bobby in, and I'm sure some other kids with them.
I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Hart too, BSN Nike school as of a few months ago.
So is that what you're sporting today too? Is that the Hart colors or Whitehall colors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Picked a great time. That's great timing. Your timing's impeccable.
Well, we'll get yelled at later when we go to Montague.
Right. Mulder be all over us. Yeah. You can't come in here with that color.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about it. It's our company colors.
Yeah. That's great. Great timing, man. But there were some other West Michigan Conference runners that finished top 30 during All-State. We posted that on the site, so go check that out. That was on there yesterday on the CatchMarkSports.com site. But, yeah, really cool thing with what Hart's got going on with cross-country. And I think there's just a good overall vibe in the school. I think things are kind of moving in the right direction as far as athletics and stuff.
Yeah.
Not that it was in a bad direction, but you got some exciting things going on with other sports too.
Yeah, it's a great fall for them. My buddy Troy Moran is now the principal up there. He left his spot at Montague and got hired up at Hart, and he has nothing but great things to say about that staff, the superintendent, Mark Platt. They love him up there. The whole community buy-in, that Hart kind of pirate pride is on the rise, and so that's all good stuff, yeah.
So speaking of being swole, like Dave Dusenberry, what about Troy Moran?
I mean, back in the day, we used to go at it pretty hard here at the old fitness thing.
Right down the road
Yeah,
here?
Thunderbolt Gym. We used to get after it. But Troy's, he's a specimen. He still likes to get after it once in a while.
So you probably saw the video of him doing the chin-ups, right?
Yeah.
How many chin-ups can you do, Ryan?
Not many.
I never could, even when I was skinny, because I was a weakling back then. Still a weakling now, and I'm just a little bit bigger frame now. But yeah, I'm not getting up there and probably getting it done.
Yeah. No, Troy's a good dude.
Yeah.
Really good dude. We go way back. He's a good guy.
Yeah. So congrats to the Hart Pirates, all the way around on that. And then skipping over to volleyball, we've got 3 teams in the regionals. We've got your former school or current school, or however you want to phrase that, North Muskegon.
Still a fan.
Playing North Point Christian tomorrow at Holton. In the same place where Shelby will be playing Kent City. So to me, that seems like a wide open regional. So I think any of those teams could come out of there.
Yeah, so we had a little conversation with John Ronkema before we came up here, and he was kind of giving us a little backstory with North Point Christian. They beat North Muskegon last year. North Point returns most of their kids except for one big hitter, who, if you're missing a big hitter in volleyball, that's a difference.
That's significant.
So I'll be at that game Tuesday, and we hope for the best for the Norsemen.
We'll have someone there, whether it's me or someone else. We'll have someone there covering it because we got 2 conference teams playing in 2 different matches. But I think that starts. I think it's a 5 and 7. I think Shelby's
first.
Shelby's at 5, and then North Muskegon's at 7 over at Holton, and then the championship match is Thursday at 6.
Okay.
So, so congrats on those 3 teams, including Fremont, because they also won a district. Fremont is playing at Comstock Park. They're playing Fruitport. Fruitport beat Montague in the district final Saturday. So it's Fruitport Fremont in a regional semi over at Comstock Park tomorrow. So good luck to them as well. So we've been talking a lot. I don't even know why we had Ryan on the show.
Yeah, other than to look good.
It brings up
exactly.
Kind of like when Tate's on.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of helps the looks department. But now it's time to talk to Ryan and get him really involved in this. So you being obviously working the role with your relationships with BSN, and we'll get with that in a second. But what are as far as being a coach, why do you do it? What are the challenges, and how big is the reward coaching in terms of just? I'm not talking financial. I'm talking just relationships.
Coach high school football?
Yeah.
I'd love coaching high school football. I got my start. I guess I'll give you a little backstory. I got my start at Sparta when I stopped playing. My old defensive coordinator basically hired me to be the freshman coach. So I was there for a couple of years, and then I kind of bounced around to different schools. But I mean, I just love building relationships with kids. Over the summer, I got invited to a couple players' weddings that I coached up at Grant. It's just things like that you come back and when you meet with all the players are there, and it's just talking about Friday night lights. That's all you talk about when you see the guys. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours that you prepare for over the summer, and then the season's basically here and gone. You're like, 9 weeks just went by that fast. Right. But it's just, my wife always says that she's a widow in the fall because it's just every day is practice. Thursday nights JV freshman games, Friday nights varsity games, and film over the weekends. So it's a lot of countless hours. But Friday. There's nothing like Friday night lights.
One of the comments that Tony Sigmund mentioned it after Friday's game, and then I heard that from Troy Byard, the Manistee coach, after they lost, was like, even whether you win or you lose, just being able to go to practice that next Monday and being together, that was the kind of the common theme between those 2 coaches, what they said in their post-game comments. And I think there's a lot to that, right? Because even me in my role covering these teams, I'm kind of like, I hope that at least one of the teams goes on. Be great to see them both go on and keep going. But I thought about if they both lose, I'm like, man, that's going to be a real bummer. It's just because I have so much fun going out on Friday nights and just being around the teams and doing what I do.
Absolutely. I think me and Ken talked about it. It's like that following Monday when you didn't have practice, you're like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, right.
I'm supposed to be at practice right now. Like, it's just different,
Yeah.
It's like you try to see the kids and stuff. And that's why it's like, it's addicting because, week 1, Forest Hills Eastern's one of my schools. They played Unity Christian at Hudsonville. So it's like right down the street from me, so I went and watched that game, you know. And then last Friday, watching Fruitport Whitehall, you just love being around and seeing the kids and the excitement of Friday nights. And it's just like, man, I wish we were still playing, but it's just sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
That's right. And there's such a finality to it, you know, when you only one team wins their last game, and then when that game's done, it's like boom, it's done. And so you wake up the next Monday and you go, what are we supposed to do? Or you know, if you carry on long enough, then maybe you transition right into basketball practice or wrestling or whatever the next season might be for you. But the finality of that last game, it kind of hits you, and it really hits you when you're a senior, you know.
And I mean, like you said last week, it's not life or death, of course, but you know, a lot of the people involved invest a lot in this, and you know, and this is not, you know, Oak Ridge would be in the same boat, but if you look at Whitehall, just the special season they've had a season unlike maybe any other they've had, and their story's still to be written potentially, you know, if they keep going on. But you know, if you think about it, I mean, they very well could lose Friday, and then that's it. All the everything, all those memories. They'll still always have the memories. They'll have all those things, but it's over. That dream of whatever their dream is would be over at that point. But again, it's that finality of it. That's what we kind of hit you like, man, they all the things they've done, all the memories they've created, then that part of their life is going to be done.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So, you look at in terms of other challenges. What are the challenges of coaching? I mean, there's the great part of it, but any other challenges or anything else that's great about it?
I mean, there's always challenges with football. You know, I feel like today, as opposed to, you know, coaching 9 years ago when I first started, just, you know, the parents and the kids and, you know, the pressure, I guess, that's on these kids now more than there's ever been, you know, so the you know, winning is just everything, cures everything. And it's just like, you know, this past year at Allendale, we went 4-5, but, you know, we won all the games we should have won. It's a rebuild, you know. It's just there's positives to some stuff, and then there's also, well, you guys lost 5 games, so it's like, okay, how do you combat the losses with positive for people? And it's just there's more to it, and it's like, you know what? If we went 0-9, I wouldn't care. If we went 9-0, you know, it's just the relationships that you build with these kids and stuff like that. It's something special that you can't trade for, you know.
Oh, yeah, because I could see it with the Ravenna players. I mean, it's not like they lost a heartbreaker or something like that, but there were a lot of tears shed, even in a district final game. And they were, just because it's not even so much the winning and the losing, it's just you're not going to be together with those same guys in that same way ever again.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's not just football. I mean,
right.
Tuesday night, one of those volleyball teams, 2 of them are going to lose, and they're going to be tears shed, as there should be, because they've invested a lot of time and effort, and parents will be emotional, and those are all valid feelings, and you know, you just embrace those and cherish the memories. So
I got to ask you, so your connection was Darren Garrity, or no?
Yeah, so I coached with Darren up at Forest Hills Eastern under Eddie Aspo, and it was kind of a weird transition. Eddie got the job at Greenville. Darren got the job at Grant. And I wasn't going to coach football anymore. And Darren's like, why don't you come up to Grant? I was like, Grant? Like, I'm from Sparta, and that's farther north than Sparta. Like, I said, hey, I'll coach you there for 2 years. So we coached there for 2 years. And then with Darren, we had a lot of success. You know, we went to back-to-back playoffs, first time in school history. Got bounced by Oak Ridge both years. You know, they had that big running back, Leroy Quinn. I don't know his name. You know, and then I ended up back at Hudsonville. They hired Brent Sandy over there, Cliff's brother, he's AD. And so I was there for the last few years, and I stepped down in January with my new position with BSN Sports, because I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to coach. It's pretty busy in the fall. And then Darren Garrity got the Allendale job. He was like, listen, you need some coaches. You can be a volunteer. I'm like, listen, because I was the JV head coach at Grant and Hudsonville. I'm like, well, I'll take a lesser role. So I just coached quarterbacks this year. Didn't call either side of the offense or defense, you know, whatever. And so it was nice, you know, to coach with Darren again. And so, you know, we had some fun in the first year together. So
I got to say, I'm a Darren Garrity fan. I got to know him pretty well when I was at M Live, and covered one of the games against Newaygo, a rainy night in Newaygo, and it was like our game of the week, I think, for M Live, and just cool to kind of be around and get to know him and everything. And, you know, him and his, you know, he was the K-9 unit leader of the Grand Rapids Police Department. So I did a story on kind of his unique situation with working like third shift, basically. I think, didn't he work a lot of thirds? I think at in the GRPD and, with the K-9 unit. And then he'd come coach football, drive over. I think he lives in Comstock Park or something.
Yep.
He would drive up to Grant for practices and games and stuff. But he had a interesting schedule.
Yes, he did. Now he's retired and he's a glorified sub for Allendale.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know if he likes it that much.
Yeah. But no, that's a great guy. So, you work with a lot of the schools in the West Michigan Conference, 12 of the 14, I think you said. What do you like most about working with those schools?
I mean, it was interesting when I first came on. I got my list of schools, and it's like, okay, I know most of these schools because I basically cover from Fruitport up the Lakeshore all the way to Ludington, and so it's like, okay, I don't know a ton of people yet. That's kind of how I met Ken, working through North Muskegon. But I think the cool thing was, I gotta give a shout out to my boy Jay Mulder because he was the first school in the West Michigan Conference to kind of sign an all-school deal with BSN, like to brand themselves to Nike. And then it just became a domino effect because then BB followed suit, and then Jeff Cook at North Muskegon, and then next thing you know, it's like we go to meet with these schools. We're like, oh, we know who you are. I'm like, how do you know who I am? I haven't met you guys yet. And they're like, well, we talk at our AD conference, our AD meetings and stuff. And once one became one, and then next thing you know, Ludington, Orchardview, Fremont, Ravenna, all were like, we want to be a part of this. Hart, Shelby now, so Hesperia,
all of them. Yeah.
It's like it's pretty cool because then you work with all these schools and you get to know these ADs and coaches. So then, I'm big in high school sports. I like following it. So it just makes it easier for my job because I know what's going on with their sports, and it makes this easier transition to be personal with these guys. And now I'm, hanging out at the Whitehall game with Jared Hudson from Fremont and Justin Dennett from Montague. It's just like, it just seems, it's just natural, and I love that.
So do you think it's a coincidence that I have Ken as the co-host and you as a guest? We want to align ourselves with BSN because you guys got all the ends with all these West Michigan Conference schools.
Well, I'll tell you,
smart move.
When I was at North Muskegon, Caleb Parnan had done some work with BSN, and he's like, Ken, you got to check this out. Like, they do this, and you can be a Nike school or an Under Armour school, and you get paid to do this, and they give you. And I'm like, well, let's check this out. And to me, it was a no-brainer. Like, why are we not? And so, don't let Ryan fool you. He's a rock star when he goes to schools because he's the Nike guy, right?
Who doesn't like Nike?
When he goes into North Muskegon, it's like, oh, that's the Nike guy. Are we getting new uniforms? And it's like, da-da-da-da-da. And that, even just that sort of excitement to be able to tie your school with a brand, the kids buy into that stuff, and it helps with school culture and climate and spirit and all that stuff. And that's really what we're trying to do at BSN, is to try to build that capacity so that kids have an enjoyable experience during high school.
I mean, I've never heard anyone say, oh, Nike sucks. Have they ever said that? No. I haven't heard it.
They might with some of the shipping stuff right now. But generally, no.
I mean, who doesn't? But no, that's a really cool job. I got to imagine, And again, what are some of the other, I don't want to call it perks, but just, I'm sure that the relationship level, that's another huge bonus, and you need that in your role, in your job, just like I need it in mine. But how special is it to get to know these folks on that level?
I mean, I think it's pretty cool because you don't know these people. Next thing you have a lot in common. Being a high school football coach, it's been very easy for me to get to know these coaches, and then kind of helps with me, with Darren. I'm like, Darren's like, hey, I need another 7-on-7. I'm like, well, let me just text one of these coaches, and it just makes it really easy. And then, like Ken says, I love going into schools because, like, I go into Whitehall and the kids know me now. Like, oh, that's Ryan, the BSN guy. And they're like, convince this coach to get new jerseys. Convince this coach to get new jerseys. But it's just, you make relationships with people you didn't think you ever would. And it's just like, you just talk about non-work stuff now, which is pretty cool, So
what's the word? You guys are obviously, he's definitely younger than us. I mean, I'm older than you by a little bit, but the kids use the word drip. Is there anything else for cool clothing that they use? What's the slang for that?
I think it's drip.
The drip.
Just drip?
Right.
Gotta have good drip.
Drippy?
It was swag for a while, but I think that's gone. So I think it's drip.
So I'll throw this kid's name out there. I don't think he'd mind because it's a good thing. But so Jerry McDowell's son, Jack, is a senior at Whitehall. And I was at a Whitehall baseball practice last year, and I show up wearing like a pretty cool CatchMark hoodie. And he comes over and he goes, man, CatchMark's got some drip.
And you were confused?
Yeah, I go,
like,
what do you mean?
Why are you talking about me?
Yeah. I'm not up with the lingo, but I am enough to know to be dangerous enough. So I do know a lot of those, but I just didn't know if there's any other terms that I'm behind on that I got to get caught up on.
I think it's just drip now.
Yeah.
It used to, like Ken said, it used to be swag, but now it's just like gotta have that drip.
Right.
So you guys are in the business of selling or marketing drip?
Drip. We're drippy.
Drip distributors.
Yep. Look good, play good, feel good. Was that
That's
Deion
right.
Sanders quote?
That's right. So what are you seeing in terms of like athletic program needs? Like what are the biggest ways that you can help athletic departments around in the areas that you service?
I mean, one thing that we do with BSN is we're pretty good at giving back to schools. Everyone's got to buy stuff, and the way we help out is like, well, if you spend so much money, there's different tiers. We're going to give you a kickback, and Nike's going to give you a kickback, or Under Armour is what we love doing. But one thing that we're doing more and more, which people love, is campus branding. That's what we call it. Because once you sign with the school, you can be associated with the Nike swoosh, the UA logo, and just getting that out there, it creates a buzz for kids that say, hey, I'm a Nike school. Like, BB does a really good job of branding. He did that to their VAC and just put the Nike swoosh everywhere with the Viking head, and kids are like, and then you talk to other ADs, like, Friday night at the game, I was talking to Fosberg over at Nuevo, and he's like, this is sweet. Where do you get all this branding stuff? I'm like, we do this. We're trying to promote these kids, put it on your Twitter page, put it on your, their Instagrams or whatever. Like, hey, we're, Whitehall's a Nike school, Montague's a Nike school, North Muskegon's a Nike school, and kids love that stuff. It creates a buzz, and people. It's amazing how many people will love a Nike hoodie if it says North Muskegon on it.
Yeah.
As opposed to nothing wrong with a Gildan or a BSN, but
right.
that brand sells itself and gets kids to play. I remember at coaching, we got more kids out at Hudsonville when we got brand new Nike uniforms because they wanted to look sweet. Like, these are sweet uniforms. Let's play. It's a cool feeling to give those to kids, and I love it. That's why I say I love going into school with jerseys, and they're like stopping me in the hall. I have no idea who these kids are, and they're like, let me see those jerseys.
Yeah.
Sweet.
No, and I think we at CatchMark have done a pretty good job of branding, but we're always trying to work on that. And I think we're in a good spot overall in terms of what kids and what the communities think of us and the work we do. But yeah, you're always trying to find ways to stay relevant with the schools and everything, and continue to grow what we're doing. So.
Right. And Ryan mentioned Instagram. That's a social media platform, Scott, just in case.
Oh, it is? Oh, thank you.
Yep, just in case
even
you're
though
wondering.
Even though I use it every week through Hootsuite. So we are, another little plug again. So when I go out to a game, I do use Hootsuite, great tool, but it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and then even TikTok. But you already knew that.
That's right. I kind of miss TikTok, Tate. Has he had any? Like, have you had any updates on him?
He's with Muskegon Community College. He's playing basketball for him.
Good.
They just had their first games over the weekend. I know they won Friday, but I haven't seen what happened Saturday. So he's been kind of tied up with that, but he's still working for us, still doing a few things here and there, but we're working with him around his schedule. But yeah, we miss Tate having him around.
Yeah.
So another BSN school.
Yeah.
Community.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
With old Gene, or was it that way before Gene came back? Probably with
prior to that.
Probably with
prior to that.
Prior to that, and that's with why am I missing his name? The athletic director. Oh, McDermott, Marty McDermott.
Oh, yep.
I don't know if that's who you worked with on that or not, but or if it was pre that or not. But any other common themes that you see with the schools? And you mentioned school spirit, culture, anything like that. Before we wrap up this episode, anything else that you're seeing in terms of trends or anything else that you guys see in your jobs?
I mean, I think when one school does something, it's a trickle down effect.
Yeah, you got to keep up with the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
And so if this school does it, then the next school does it. And I think it's pretty easy to, I guess, makes my job easy if something's done right, the first time, and they see it at a school. I'm like, hey, when you go to this game, look at what they're doing. Whether it's, the pylons for their football games with their custom logo.
Mm-hmm.
Little things like that. Like, I remember Jay got a digital down marker at Montague, and like now everybody's like, we want a digital down marker. It's just different things like that you can do with that schools love to do. They want to be one up on someone else.
That reminds me of you guys have seen Step Brothers, right?
Yeah.
I want some fancy sauce.
Yeah, they do. They want the fancy sauce, but that's the little stuff that makes people feel good about where they're at, and When I was again at North Muskegon and Ryan and BSN came in with their package and they showed me all the campus branding, I was like, because to me, I was a big brander. Like I wanted us to have a look and a feel. And when they came in with their stuff, it was like, oh my gosh, I want that window perf, that rug, that flag, that, and just to help build that school pride.
Yeah. So, well, hey, this was a great discussion. Thanks for coming on, Ryan.
Well, thanks for having me.
Ryan Patterson of BSN and Ken Byard of BSN as well. So thanks a lot, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Before we go, got to thank our sponsors one more time. That's Grieve Law, Big Stone Therapies, Greenridge Realty with Chris Dykman and Sarah Reel, North Grove Brewers, Foundation Systems of Michigan with John Botten, Coldwell Banker with Dave Dusenberry, Scheid Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, Van Dyke Mortgage Lakeshore, and Durgan Insurance Group. Hope you're all having a great week, everybody. We'll see you all again soon.